It's Nick Shell with Nature Munchers. Now, as you know, on my show, what I do is I go out to the wilderness, far from civilization at all, and we look for protein sources, because as you know, I'm a vegan, so I'm just constantly needing protein. I can't quite get enough protein. So out here in the middle of nowhere, no people around, no civilization at all, I'm gonna try to find some protein to extend my lifespan here. Now it appears we've come across some sort of tree, I guess you'd say this. Now if you believe you have stumbled upon a tree and you're in my situation where you're just a vegan starved for protein, you just look at the bottom of the tree and a lot of times you will find some tasty fruit that will fall from the tree. Some people refer to this as a pine cone. It's got quite the crunch, and some people complain that it makes their gums bleed. But if that is a problem, you can always even lick the bark on the pine tree and maybe get some protein that way if you're as desperate as I am on a constant hourly basis for protein without being tempted by the bird that just flew by. All right, well, what else do we want to cover in today's hour? Let's see. There it is. Norwood 2 to Norwood 5, question mark. That was a question that or a comment actually on that video I made. Let's see. Okay, Santiago, he's one of our new friends. He's one of our new good friends, and left me a comment. Let's share it as we try to find some signs of civilization and humanity out here. I don't want to end up in some sort of alternate dimension Planet of the Apes, you know. Santiago had this to say, quote, "Hello Nick, thank you so much for replying to my comment. I currently booked an appointment for a separate dermatologist just to get a different opinion on my situation. My dermatologist did not recommend a hair transplant because he said a hair transplant can destroy what he calls dormant hair follicles that are still in the area of thinning. He actually recommended Rogaine and Propecia, but I can't afford that. It would be a long commitment. For someone who's 21, I can't imagine myself spending thousands of dollars annually to get chemicals in my system that have potential side effects. I have a job that requires me to look professional at all times, and I consulted my employer about potentially shaving my head. She told me, since my hair loss isn't too severe yet, that she would rather me have me with the hair that I have now. Even though she promised me that going bald would never get me fired, just the fact that she pointed out her preference to me worries me. I'm trying to fight my hair loss, but in the meantime, I did some research on my own, and apparently palmetto and laser comb can be an alternative solution to Rogaine and Propecia with none of the side effects. Do you think I should give those options a try, at least while I'm booked for another appointment?" End quote. Santiago is our friend, and I think this is gold to me, and I'm very grateful for this comment. I think we can learn from this and we can assess this. Hopefully this isn't poisonous. We'll find out by the end of the video. It's sour though. So here's what I want. Let's talk about a few things. What are my thoughts on? Yeah, that actually wasn't that good of a berry. Last week they were a lot better. Yeah. Paul saw palmetto. Can I say it right? Saw palmetto. It's an essential oil. It's an oil, and I'm not against oils. As long as you're not spending a lot of money on it, I endorse it. I'm all about what can I do myself, what's going to be cheap, and what has apparently had some proven results. And you know, I'm sticking with the rosemary and argan oil for now. I stopped doing the pumpkin seed oil just because it was so much more expensive compared to the rest. So I stopped doing that. But I say if it's cheap, if it's easy, and it doesn't take your time, do it. That's the problem with the laser thing. I don't know what's all involved with the laser thing. I mean, even if there's not side effects, how much money are you spending? How much time are you spending? So I would definitely say try the oil, but the laser thing, I'd be skeptical about that just because it goes against my own code. Again, it's got to be cheap, easy, and something I can do myself and not spend a lot of time. I guess that's 4 things, is what I would say. So I like this story though. I like this narrative, this concept that he had an open conversation with his employer. And now I don't know what Norwood stats we're talking about, but it's funny because my wife and I were talking about a similar situation last night before we went to bed. Here in Nashville, there's something called the Bobby Bones Show. It's a radio program where they do a lot of talking. It is a country music station. My wife's from Northern California, but she loves country music. And so they were talking about the study, about how in a place of employment, it appears maybe I have found some civilization actually. In a place of employment, men who are balding compared to a man who is not balding, the guy who's balding is not going to be seen as, he's not going to be given as much respect. He's not going to be perceived with as much respect as the man who has all his hair. So my wife told me about that, knowing that I make videos about hair loss, and I fully agreed. I totally get it. The free market will choose a man with a full head of hair compared to one who's visibly losing his hair. But then I did a follow-up question with my wife, and I said, but did they mention if that same guy who's losing his hair shaves his head or buzzes it so close that you can't really see the hairline so much anymore, did they admit that the study shows also that that's when the free market changes and they will actually choose the guy with the shaved head because he is more, he appears to be taller, more in charge, that sort of thing. And she said, yeah, actually they did mention that. So, you know, that's something I'm very aware of. So, but that's not the case for our friend today, because what he's saying is his boss basically sees, even if you're visibly losing your hair, that that's more professional. So I'm going to say, hey, if it's for the sake of a job, then do whatever it takes for the job, as far as, even though it'd probably look better, maybe shaved, if the boss says keep the hair, we're going to keep the hair. And because for certain people, they do see that as more professional. Not all people. My boss, my mom, my sister, those are people I know that would prefer me to have hair despite any kind of hair loss. They would always rather me have hair than to buzz it off. But not every, my wife actually prefers me. She would, if she had her choice now, she'd want me to shave my head right now. If I just said, what do you want? That's what she would choose. But ultimately, do what the boss wants, keep those paychecks coming in. Let's not spend a lot of money on trying to save our hair. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm Nick Shell. I'm your friend. I'm here to bless you as you bless me. We peel off these layers, we evolve into better people together, don't we?